So, Shemai everyone, and welcome to this class on experimental drawing. I love doing this lesson because it's really fun. They're just short little tasks for you to do and little activities, and they're basically a way of loosening up your drawing before you're about to do a concentrated drawing. So, when I say experimental drawing, what do you think of? Well, we might think of intuitive drawing. And when I say intuitive drawing, I mean that is almost instinctive. So we're not necessarily thinking too much about what we're doing because we have to be aware of maybe the time scale that we have or the technique that we're about to do. So there's a well-known artist called Amber Victoria who uses this technique, and she's an illustrator working in New York City. She advocates for the kind of intuitive drawing technique, and she also teaches it on some online platforms such as Skillshare, and she's a really popular illustrator. She's also worked with Gucci, the New York Times and Instagram. So that just goes to show that a lot of different artists are using this technique, maybe before they draw or when they have like drawer's block. So we're going to be trying some of these techniques today. Hopefully you've read the experimental drawing technique worksheet that I've given you, so you know what you're going to need. But we're going to have to get an object related to natural form, so perhaps a plant, that's what I used. Maybe you want to use a leaf, or perhaps you want to use a piece of fruit or a vegetable, it's up to you. This is what I used. I thought that it had interesting shapes to it, so I'd be able to do some interesting marks on the paper. I also want you to get some sheets of paper. It doesn't matter if you haven't got coloured paper. I found scraps of coloured paper around my house, so I decided to do it on that. But if you've only got plain A4 paper, you can fold that one sheet in half and then use the two sides of the half. But you're going to need a couple of sheets. I would suggest at least maybe 10. And then you're also going to need some pens. So I use different kinds of pens, highlighters, coloured pencils, fine liners, that type of thing. If you haven't got those, just use one coloured pen. But if you do, I would suggest having maybe 5 different pens. So pause this video while you go and get them and then come back. So once you have your papers ready, these are all my different kinds of papers, we're going to start drawing, which is my favourite bit. So get your first sheet of paper with one pen, maybe a fine liner. You have 30 seconds to draw your object with your dominant hand. So we're not starting this now. I just want you to watch what I do first, and then you'll have an opportunity to do yours after. But just make sure you write on the back what it was that you did. So the second one was a different thickness pen or change the colour, and you have 40 seconds to do this one, so that's what mine looked like. And then the next one that we did was change the pen again, so I used a thicker black pen. 1 minute, but using your non-dominant hand, which was extremely difficult. So if you're right-handed, use your left hand, and if you're left-handed, use your right hand. I found this so tricky, but I really liked the way it looked, so you might be surprised by the outcome as well. But don't be afraid of anything looking silly or whatever. It honestly doesn't matter at all. So the next one was draw using only swirly lines. 1 minute and 30 seconds to do this one. I didn't actually like the result that much, but it was quite fun just to do loads of swirls. But you just have to make sure you keep writing what you've done. So the next one was add shading first. So I added my shading using a highlighter. So I was just looking at the darkest bits of my plant and drawing it in first. And then you do your outliner on top. Sorry, your outline on top using another pen. So you have 3 minutes to do this one. I found that one quite difficult as well. It's hard thinking almost in reverse to what you're used to doing. But I do like the way highlighter looks behind things. The best thing to do in regards to timer is maybe put one on your phone so you can keep track of what you're doing, and also don't go over the time, otherwise you might get carried away. Just stop when the timer goes off, leave it, move on to the next one. These are like quick fire tasks. So for the next clip I wanted to slow it down and show you what I was working like in real speed. And this one I changed my pen to a pink biro. and I was drawing without looking at my page, so I was only looking at the marks on my object. And this one is also really difficult because a lot of people are really used to just constantly looking down at their page and looking at what they're doing. So really try not to look at your page. So I've put an additional drawing task on there for you to create your own technique. So maybe just think of something. Maybe you could use 2 pens at the same time or draw in dot work. You have 4 minutes to do that activity before we move on to the last one. Then what I'd like you to do is pick up all the sheets that you've done so far and review to see which techniques are your favourite, because what we're going to be doing for the last task is spending 30 minutes on a drawing. So I'd like you to pick a few techniques that you've really enjoyed, just compiling these techniques together and see what you make. So have fun. It's really, really fun, this, and I think that you'll be quite addicted to doing it after you try it a couple of times. So good luck, Heil, and I'll speak to you soon.